Actually, we just got the video in. Let me play it for you, Rev.
President's action. This is nothing more than a continuation of the president's desperate weaponization of our justice system. He is forcing federal law enforcement agencies to do his bidding, all because I did my job as the New York State Attorney General. These charges are baseless, and the president's own public statements make clear that his only goal is political retribution at any cost. The president's actions are a grave violation of our constitutional order and have drawn sharp criticism from members of both parties. His decision to fire a United States attorney who refused to bring charges against me and replace them with someone who is blindly loyal not to the law, but to the president, is antithetical to the bedrock principles of our country. This is the time for leaders on both sides of the aisle to speak out against this blatant perversion of our system of justice. I stand strongly behind my office's litigation against the Trump Organization. We conducted a 2-year investigation based on the facts and evidence, not politics. Judges have upheld the trial court's finding that Donald Trump, his company, and his 2 sons are liable for fraud. I'm a proud woman of faith, and I know that faith and fear cannot share the same space. And so today, I'm not fearful. I'm fearless. And as my faith teaches me, no weapon formed against me shall prosper. We will fight these baseless charges aggressively, and my office will continue to fiercely protect New Yorkers and their rights. And I will continue to do my job.
Wow. Rev, speaking to the moment with words crafted for the history of these times.
No question about it. And I think that if he were going to pick an enemy, he picked the wrong one, because the strength and as well as the eloquence of Tish James will now be on the national stage. Because one, I agree with some of the panelists that the case will probably be thrown out. If it is not, it is going to really expose the weaponization of this president against any of his political enemies or his perceived enemies. To have Lisa Cook in the Federal Reserve and Tish James accused almost of the same crime, and then he goes after Comey. And this is a man that just a year and a half, 2 years ago, was saying that he was the victim of politicization of the criminal justice system, and juries found him guilty. Let's not forget when Tish James and the State Attorney General's office of New York prosecuted his companies and him and his university, they didn't find him guilty. The juries found him guilty. The prosecutor can't say you're guilty. They can say you are accused. We're indicting you. He was found guilty of sexual harassment by a jury. He was found 34 counts felonies, criminal, by a jury. So there's no one that can doubt that this is all vengeance, a misuse of the criminal justice system. And I think that what he's done is...
Andrew Weissman, I'm coming straight to you.
Yep.
I mean, this is not how it's supposed to work, right? Crimes are investigated by investigators who then bring them to prosecutors who then make these difficult assessments of whether or not there's enough evidence to indict and prevail in a courthouse. This seems to be going the opposite direction, and I know the adaptive mind likes to say, well, no jury will convict, but that's not really the point today, is it?
Right. That's right. I'm going to give some embroidery just because I'm a legal nerd on the sort of incredible reporting and the synopsis from Carol. One is we will know whether there's an indictment because the return, the sort of voting, once it has happened, the handing up of that indictment, if it is voted, will be done in open court. It has to be legally. And so it's not something that that we will be sort of surprised by, weeks or months later. It is something that they will see actually being handed up. And so we should be expecting that if they manage to get the vote. In terms of the way things are supposed to happen, there is a Department of Justice rule that clearly is being violated, in my view, certainly in the James Comey case, and based on the reporting from Carol Leonnig in this case as well. When a prosecutor goes to the grand jury, it is true that all that you need to show to the grand jury is that you have probable cause. Think of that as maybe 20% chance. It's a low standard. And all you have to do is meet that threshold, and you only have to get a majority of the grand jurors, so that's 12 out of 23 usually, to agree. But DOJ, the Department of Justice, has a rule, and it's a really important rule, which is that you do not present a case to the grand jury and indict somebody unless you are like a good faith, reasonable belief based on the facts that you can win at trial. In other words, that you are going to be able to prove your case beyond a reasonable doubt. The reason for that rule is precisely so you don't have the James Comey situation and now the Letitia James situation if she is indicted, where you have this period where you're subjecting somebody to an indictment, but it is so clear in everything we know to date about the evidence in both the Comey case and the Letitia James case that they will never be able to meet that. That is why you're seeing career people say no. And you actually, in the case of Mr. Siebert, it was not a career person. It was a Trump appointee who said no. And that's because that's how you're built. You're built at the Department of Justice that you are supposed to base things on the facts and the law. And so what we're unfortunately going to see is the courts and juries pushing back, but we do not have any resistance within the White House, and we certainly don't see it at the Department of Justice at the leadership level, where they should be imposing their own rule in these cases.
Andrew Weissman, what is a declination memo? And when they're drafted and it's made public that they exist, how can they be used by a victim or a target of a malicious prosecution?
Great question. So one of the things that you do when you're at the department is if you're going to go forward or if you're not going to go forward, you write that up. And so if you go forward, you write a prosecution memo and you lay out all of the pros and cons, the law and the facts. The same thing if you are not going to go forward, you'd write a declination memo and you'd write out what the legal problems are, what the factual problems are, why it is that you think you should not go forward. Those memos are the kind of thing that Pat Fitzgerald, the lawyer who you referenced, Nicole, a revered lawyer, highly respected at the department and elsewhere, former U.S. attorney in Chicago. That is something that he is clearly going to seek, and he referenced yesterday in the arraignment of James Comey, because that is a lawyer who's going to say that this is vindictive prosecution. That is a legal doctrine for you are singled out based on either a statutory or constitutional basis that you have been targeted. Obviously, this is a poster child for targeting. I mean, if it's not here, when? And what you are going to ask for if you're a defense counsel is discovery on that. I am confident that the Department of Justice is going to fight that like crazy, because that discovery could be highly embarrassing to the department and to the White House. But that declination memo will be part of the discovery that they ask for. In addition, they will ask for all of the communications between the White House and Mr. Siebert and Ms. Halligan and anyone else about James Comey, or in this case, if Letitia James is indicted, with respect to her. And even though vindictive prosecution motions are very, very hard to win. We've already seen Abrego Garcia have a ruling in his favor, granting him discovery. And I think we'll see the same thing happen in the James Comey case. I think we will certainly see that if Letitia James is indicted. I think we'll see that there as well, because it's not rocket science to say, what did James Comey and Letitia James have in common? And why would they be targeted when there is reporting, including in ProPublica, that they're current people in Donald Trump's cabinet who have the same or similar mortgage issue. So that this is the antithesis of the rule of law, and it really strongly suggests targeting, which goes to the heart of vindictive prosecution.
Director Brennan, I want to bring you in on this. You are a perceived political enemy of Donald Trump. You have been targeted with threats of prosecution. I believe they believe that you are under investigation. I think last time we talked, some of that was unclear. Tell me how this news lands, that a grand jury is hearing evidence that a Trump-appointed prosecutor didn't think met the lowest threshold of bringing a case against Tish James.
First of all, Nicole, I love listening to Andrew Weissman speak about the law. He does it so well.
Goes to Letitia James simply by how she's conducting herself. She's not afraid. She's not acting afraid, and I don't think she is afraid. She's standing up to Trump. Remember, she was the one that first took Trump down for these big civil charges against him. Helped take him down with regard to his company and how he and his company and all of that were breaking laws, right? And of course, he did. Those were not criminal convictions, but they were against him personally. Although there were criminal convictions against his corporation, it should be known, not him. In that case, but his corporation. But there were also civil penalties levied against him, his company, etc. And all of this goes to show, folks, that Trump's just trying to get revenge, and I don't think it's going to work. And you can see the difference here. Look at how Eric Adams acted, begging Trump for mercy, groveling. I don't know if he would have won re-election anyway, but that certainly ruined what was left of his career, his dignity, his reputation, all of that. He acted like Donald Trump was his savior, and he bent the knee and looked more pathetic than he ever has. Letitia James, by contrast, is saying, again, I'm not afraid. I'm without fear. Because one, she knows she's innocent. Two, they have a weak case. Three, beyond the case, this is even more retributional than the Comey stuff, I think. I think it's even more direct, because Trump's like, oh, I got, held liable in civil court, and my company got convicted for clear mortgage violations and loan violations and things like that, going to the bank and not being honest about what properties I have, and then going to the tax man and not being honest either, and all of that, right? And so I'm just going to charge you with the same thing. Even Comey, he didn't charge Comey, for instance, for mortgage stuff. He didn't charge Comey for launching an insurrection. He didn't charge Comey, I believe, for stealing classified documents. It was, I think, perjury, right? I don't even know. Point is, she's won the first round because she has not backed down. Again, Trump wants these people to back down because they don't want to actually go to a case, because the cases are weak. He wants them to plead guilty out of fear, then claim victory. But she's not going to give him that satisfaction.